Welcome to Herbally Yours, an adventure into the world of natural medicine. Here is your host, Dr. Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse who will help you take the leap to ultimate wellness.
And greetings. Thank you so much for joining me, Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse, for another edition of Herbally Yours, right here on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Herbally Yours brings you the latest information about the many facets in the world of natural living. Today, we're so happy to have as our guest nutritionist Felicia Stoler. And Felicia has a lot of letters after her name, but she is a registered dietitian nutritionist and exercise physiologist, as well as a consultant in disease prevention, wellness, and healthful living. She earned her Master's of Science degree in Applied Physiology and Nutrition from Columbia University and her doctorate in clinical nutrition from Rutgers School of Health Professions. She completed her residencies at Rutgers and also was on the ABC News Medical Unit. She has served as a lecturer at Rutgers and she teaches exercise physiology, nutrition, and communications. She also hosted TLC's groundbreaking series, Honey, We're Killing the Kids, which targeted unhealthy lifestyles of families across the country in an effort to motivate them to make positive changes. Stoler authored the American College of Sports Medicine's current comment on childhood obesity. And she is also the author of the book we'll be featuring today, Living Skinny in Fat Genes. You can always find her at Facebook at drfeliciastoler.com, and we're so happy to have her on board as our guest today. So welcome, Felicia.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So we have a lot of paths in common because I also graduated from Rutgers University, and I was very involved with Columbia University on the panel of traditional medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, traditional medicine means herbs and natural healing.
Right.
So I've crossed many of those paths myself, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, well, it's always my pleasure. I enjoy helping to educate consumers and the general public about matters that I have my expertise in.
Now, I saw a couple of those episodes of Honey, We're Killing the Kids.
Yes.
I thought that was really well done and motivational. Is that still available, perhaps on YouTube or another place that parents can go on?
A friend of mine a number of months ago was on again. I don't know if all the episodes are available online. I got to tell you, it was a lot of fun working on that. I will say that. It definitely was a great opportunity, to, inspire and motivate and, help really teach people how to live healthier lives. And, you don't always get to go into people's homes like that. And I thought it was great.
Right, and open the refrigerator and then talk about the fact that most of what's there is really terrible for your health and causes disease.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny sometimes I open up some people's refrigerators, what I see in there.
It's funny, but it's also sad because it's probably directly linked to, a lot of disease processes that both parents and children and grandparents suffer from.
Right. Yeah, I mean, people forget. Like my quick soundbite is that diet and exercise are the least expensive, least invasive, and most effective way to prevent and treat most diseases, and we just really take that for granted so often. Like I was speaking to a friend the other day, and he was talking to me about how he needs to lose weight. I'm like, you're always yo-yo dieting. Can't you just maintain a healthy lifestyle? To me, the vicious cycle of going off of some eating plan and then, going crazy and maybe not exercising enough and then having to get that off. Like, who wants to spend their time working like that,
So, as a professional, and you are a well-trained professional, and that's one of the things I'd like to point out to listeners. There's a lot of people who call themselves things, let's say, like health coach.
Right.
And they don't have the kind of deep, involved training that you have with a doctorate in clinical nutrition
Oh, well, forget
from a
about just
major
the doctorate. It's
university.
just even the master's degree. I mean, I'm very alarmed and frightened by the number of people that, and I know that they're well-intentioned, that put themselves out there as health coaches, wellness coaches, helping people with weight loss. I so get it because, I got into this field because I was getting bad advice from the trainer at the gym. So if we start with that as being one of those places where there's a lot of misinformation, at the end of the day, people like myself are highly skilled and highly trained. We go through a lot of processes to get to where we are. It's not so easy as reading a book. It's not do what I do because it's successful for me. It's understanding behaviors. It's understanding anatomy and physiology, pharmacology, psychology, the understanding sort of how diseases work and how they impact the body. And so often people don't realize how hard that is. And because there's no licensure and people just don't know the difference. I mean, like I fly all the time. I want a pilot who's highly trained. I don't want somebody who doesn't really quite know what they're doing flying an airplane. And we think about that in so many other areas of our life, but we sort of forget about that when it comes to nutrition. And that is a healthcare profession that people go to great lengths to go to school for. And anybody who hasn't done some minimal standard of education in it really is cutting themselves short and doing a disservice to the people they're trying to help.
That's so true. And of course, let's talk about some foods and your understanding and deep knowledge about how food, of course, is related not only to weight gain, but also feeling great.
Right. Yeah, of course. So, I don't know about you. I don't do it that often. Every once in a while I might eat some fried food, but, I find like when I eat that stuff, I don't feel as good as when I eat better. And by better, for me, most of the time it means eating predominantly plant-based. I always say I'm a flexitarian. I eat predominantly plant-based foods and eat small amounts of, animal-sourced proteins. That when I eat better, I'm eating my fruits and my veggies, I feel better. I have patients that report that to me too, that when they start increasing, consumption of plant-based foods in their diets, they always seem to feel better. By feeling better, having more energy, their GI tract is working well, maybe they're sleeping better, they have more energy to exercise, they can focus more at work. So I think, and I always say to people, what does feeling good mean to you, right? How do you define success in your health goals, right? So you have to define that for yourself and what that means for you.
And think about it. And I'd like to remind you that you are listening to Herbally Yours on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse, and my guest today is Felicia Stoler. We're talking about her book, Living Skinny in Fat Genes. So, yeah, feeling better and eating well, those are certainly linked. People don't sometimes realize how much. When you talk about fried food, Felicia, I actually never eat it.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing holistic nutrition for myself and my family, since 1964.
Oh,
So this
before I
is
was
not
born.
not a new topic for me. So my own children, who are now in their 40s, were never given fried food at home, although they were allowed to eat it when they were out, because sometimes if you're feeling too restricted, you might overreact by doing way more of something that's not good.
Right, correct, right. So that's always sort of been the rule in my house. I mean, it's funny. My kids never drank soda and never had things like potato chips. I remember going to a farm stand with my kids one day, and they're like, "Oh," they pointed to a bag of potato chips. I'm like, "Where did you learn to eat those?" "Oh, at camp. I spent all this money to send them to camp to hopefully eat better." And sure enough, they're or have a good time, and they're like, "Oh yeah, here we go. This is where they learn how to eat potato chips."
So I love that term flexitarian. What
Yeah,
is that about?
I wish I could say I coined it. My friend Dawn Jackson Blattner, who's a dietitian in Chicago, she has a book, and that was her plan. And it's always in the U.S. News and World Report, best diets, and most successful diets. So I think it's a really good compromise on eating, taking into account all the dietary guidelines that are out there, and I think it allows you to eat without having as many rules.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. Eat
Mm-hmm.
without having as many rules.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what would that look like, let's say?
Well, it's about eating predominantly plant-based foods. So, fruits, vegetables, grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, or pulses, and eating small amounts of, again, animal source protein. So that means, dairy and not in like minimal quantities, but just limited quantities, right? Milk, yogurt, cheeses, things like fish, chicken, beef, pork, eggs, in small quantities. I mean, people think they need to eat a pound of meat every day or a pound of protein because there's all this talk about eating more protein, eating more protein. Protein makes you lean. No, actually, exercising makes you lean. Eating, moderate amounts of fat and adequate protein and adequate carbohydrates is what helps to keep you lean, right? Staying away from junk food and, that's really key. So,
And then on the other side, I'd love your comments on this. Just yesterday, I had in my office, I have an office in Oyster Bay where I do private consults with people who are interested in being healthier and using more natural remedies. And I have to say, over the years, and you could see, been doing this a long time, people who go to all the way to, let's say, doing raw food, strict vegan diets versus heavy duty meat and fried diets,
right.
I think get in equal amount of trouble. Very severe, very severe. And
Well,
you can see it once they've done it for a number of years.
It's interesting that you say that. I've met people that tell me that they're vegan, and not that I judge a book by its cover, but I know that some of them aren't very healthy. And by healthy, I don't even mean that they're even thin. I mean, I've seen some morbidly obese people that tell me they're vegans, and I'm looking at them like, what are you eating to look like that? Because there's no way. Like, there's no way you're eating sort of clean like that. And then, I think about some of the products that are in the marketplace that fulfill a vegan standard, but they're really highly processed. And I don't want to eat something that's made to taste like meat, because if you think about all that has to go into it to make it taste like something you're trying to avoid, then why are you trying to eat that in the first place?
Yeah, and very often I do believe in terms of something that everyone knows, such as B12 deficiency, very often when people have been following that really strict vegan cold food diet, especially for a number of years, it doesn't happen right away, that B12 deficiency really starts to show up with decreased energy.
Yeah.
Overall mild depression and eye problems. That's
Right.
where I see it hit really, earlier on than some of the more severe depletion
Yeah, and I don't know if
effects.
you ever see also, I find some of those folks, their skin integrity is not as good. So, that is something that I have noticed as well. So, you look at like skin and health and, adequate intake, and we need essential nutrients, right? Essential meaning something that the body cannot produce on its own that needs to be taken in externally and usually by mouth. So, and you want to be taking that in the food form, not necessarily in the pill form. When we take things as supplements, they're supposed to supplement, right? Like they're not supposed to replace food. And I know as I've gotten older, I've taken a lot of supplements because as I've learned over the years that we need therapeutic doses of ingredients to help us, with our health and sometimes for disease prevention or symptom management. So, I'm going through menopause right now, so I take some stuff to help out with that because I don't want to take any hormone. I can't actually take hormone replacement therapy. It would be contraindicated for me. So, I do the best I can with some other, products.
Well, the good news about that is that menopause itself is not threatening and
Right.
has a shelf life of 10 years in some people, but you come out the other side. I love it. It's my favorite time of life. I'm way past it. And even when I was having the hot flashes, and this is true with a lot of nutritional challenges, I actually repositioned it in my mind according to the microcosmic orbit, which is where you take that energy, that heat energy, and actually physically bring it into your kidneys, which is very strengthening, instead of seeing it as an enemy, since we know it's not dangerous in any way, it's just
Right.
uncomfortable. I
Right.
got to love it, to tell you the truth, and I just dress where I used